Right now, while you're watching this video, there's a war happening. Not somewhere overseas. Not on some battlefield you'll ever see on the news. It's happening about 6 inches behind your eyes. Here's the wild part. You're probably losing and you don't even know it. Craig Groeschel, pastor, best-selling author, and self-described recovering control freak, opens his book Winning the War in Your Mind with one simple but terrifying idea. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. Not your goals, not your intentions, your thoughts. Whatever you think about the most, day after day, is quietly deciding who you'll be 10 years from now. So here's the question this book forces you to ask. If your thoughts are steering the ship, do you like where they're taking you? If the honest answer is not really, stick around. Because this book lays out 4 battle-tested principles, backed by both scripture and modern neuroscience, that Groeschel says completely rewired how he thinks. And by the end of this video, you'll have the entire blueprint. Groeschel opens with a simple but jarring truth. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most respected schools of modern psychology, is built on the discovery that most of our emotional and behavioral problems trace back to broken patterns of thinking. Fix the thinking, and the life often follows. And centuries before psychologists figured that out, Solomon wrote something almost identical. As a person thinks internally, so they become. That's the whole premise of this book. Groeschel isn't offering another surface-level self-help hack. He's offering a system, 4 principles, 1 per section of the book, for actually identifying the lies running your life, replacing them with truth, and rewiring the neural pathways underneath your bad habits. He calls them the Replacement Principle, the Rewire Principle, the Reframe Principle, and the Rejoice Principle. Let's walk through all 4. Chapter 1. Perception is Reality. Groeschel opens with a story from his early days on a church staff, where he and his coworkers used to play rowdy games of capture the flag in their office building. One morning, he catches a coworker, Kevin, hiding in a closet before their game officially started. In the moment, Groeschel slams the door shut, pretends to jam a chair under the handle, and convinces Kevin he's trapped. Except there was no chair. The door was never locked. Kevin could have walked out at any second. Instead, he spent the better part of an hour panicking, eventually climbing into the ceiling tiles, trying to escape from a door that was never locked in the first place. That, Groeschel says, is exactly how most of us live. We believe we're trapped by our past, trapped by our failures, trapped in relationships or financial situations or self-image issues we think we can never escape. But often, the only thing actually holding us captive is a lie we've decided to believe. And the moment you identify that lie, you can walk right out the unlocked door. This sets up the core 2-step process of the entire book. Remove the lie, then replace it with truth. But Groeschel is quick to say this isn't a light struggle, it's a war. He points to the Apostle Paul's language about spiritual warfare, arguing that most people are being quietly picked off in a battle they don't even realize they're fighting. You can't fix what you won't confront. If you're wondering why you can't shake a habit, why your temper flares, why the same fights keep happening in your marriage, the answer, Groeschel says, is that your mind is a battlefield, whether you've acknowledged it or not. Chapter 2. Becoming a Thought Warrior. Groeschel turns to the Apostle Paul as a case study. Someone who wrote about feeling like a prisoner to his own contradictory impulses, doing the very things he didn't want to do, in one of his letters. Yet later, that same man wrote about having learned the secret of being content in absolutely any circumstance. Something changed. Paul became what Groeschel calls a thought warrior, someone who learned to take every thought captive rather than letting every thought run wild. The key military term Paul uses is stronghold, an ancient fortress built to be unbreakable, where enemy leaders would hide during a siege. Groeschel argues that the lies we've believed for years function exactly like this: reinforced, thick-walled, and seemingly impenetrable, even when the truth is standing right outside. He shares candidly that even as a pastor who taught biblical truth for a living, he privately believed he was never quite enough, never smart enough, successful enough, worthy enough. Knowing the truth intellectually wasn't enough to tear down that fortress. Here's the twist, though. Groeschel says real change was never about self-help or sheer willpower. In fact, he says the humbling starting point is admitting you don't have the power to win this war on your own. He compares it to trying to shovel a foot of snow off a driveway by hand versus having a neighbor come through with a tractor. Most of us fight our mental battles with shovel power when we desperately need tractor power, a strength beyond our own. Chapter 3. Old Lies. New Truth. This chapter opens with the image of a large, restless dog who refuses to leave his yard, even to chase cars, footballs, or a taunting cat, because he was once shocked by an invisible electric fence. Here's the twist. The fence has been removed for years, but the dog still won't cross the boundary because he believes the pain is still waiting for him there. Groeschel says most of us are that dog. We stay inside self-imposed boundaries, afraid to try a new relationship, a new opportunity, a new habit, because somewhere in our past we got shocked once or twice, and we've decided it's not worth the risk of trying again. The lie becomes a cage, even after the danger is gone. So what's the actual weapon against these lies? Groeschel points back to the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness, where 3 times Satan tried to twist the truth, and 3 times Jesus responded not with arguments or willpower, but by directly quoting scripture. That, Groeschel says, is the model. Identify the specific lie, then find the specific truth that directly counters it, and turn that truth into a personal declaration. He walks through several real examples. Someone who believes, if I had more money, I'd be happy, replacing that lie with a truth about contentment. Someone who believes they're a victim, replacing it with a truth about being more than a conqueror. This lie, truth, declaration, framework becomes the toolkit readers are asked to build for themselves throughout the book. Chapter 4. Crossed Wires and Circular Ruts. Groeschel tells a very 1980s story about installing an aftermarket stereo in his first car, badly. For weeks, the stereo mysteriously worked only at night, until he finally realized he'd accidentally wired it to the headlights instead of a proper power source. The car worked, technically, just not the way it was supposed to. He uses this as a metaphor for how so many of our behaviors are wired to the wrong source. We know logically we should stop worrying, stop overspending, stop losing our temper. Yet we keep doing it anyway because somewhere along the way, our brains built a faulty connection. This chapter dives into neuroscience. Every time we repeat a thought behavior pattern, we reinforce a physical neural pathway in the brain, quite literally a rut, the same way tires create ruts in a muddy road. Groeschel shares a deeply personal example, a childhood memory of his grandmother's frightening warnings about the Great Depression that wired him for decades to associate money with fear and scarcity, even long after he and his wife had paid off every debt they owned. Years later, he traced several other unhealthy patterns: stress eating, retail therapy, escapism, back to formative moments where a brain simply learned, when I feel X, I do Y, and kept doing it automatically ever since. The point isn't to just feel guilty about the rut. It's to recognize that behavior change alone doesn't work because it doesn't touch the wiring underneath. Chapter 5. Creating a Trench of Truth. Groeschel makes a sharp distinction here. A rut is accidental, aimless, and damaging, but a trench is intentional, purposeful, and built to carry something valuable. His argument is that most people try to fix bad habits through sheer behavior modification. I'll just stop doing X, which is like sawing a single branch off a tree you actually want gone. The root system, he says, is still very much alive. You have to dig a brand new channel for your thoughts to flow into, not just block the old one. He gets specific about how to do this. Identify the recurring negative thought pattern, then intentionally write a personal declaration rooted in truth and repeat it out loud in writing on your phone's notes app until it becomes as automatic as the old lie used to be. He shares his own list of daily declarations, covering everything from his marriage and parenting to his finances and his sense of purpose, built specifically to counter the ruts he'd identified in his own life. He also drops a striking statistic here. Researchers estimate we experience roughly 500 unwanted, intrusive thoughts a day, lasting about 14 seconds each. nearly 2 hours daily of mental noise we never asked for. His point: since your mind absorbs and reflects whatever it's repeatedly exposed to, psychologists call this the law of exposure. You have to be deliberate about feeding it truth, or the noise will win by default. Chapter 6, Rumination and Renewal. This chapter opens with an unexpectedly vivid image. Cows chewing their cud, swallowing, regurgitating, and rechewing the same mouthful of grass over and over to extract every bit of nutrition from it. That, Groeschel explains, is the literal meaning behind the biblical word for meditate. It's not a single read-through of a truth. It's chewing on it again and again until it's fully absorbed. Why does repetition matter so much? Because Groeschel points to research on the illusory truth effect. The well-documented finding that simply repeating a statement makes people more likely to believe it's true, regardless of whether it actually is. He notes that widely believed myths, like the idea we only use 10% of our brains, persist for this exact reason: repetition, not accuracy. If repetition can plant a lie that deep, Groeschel argues, repetition can just as powerfully plant truth. He introduces the concept of automaticity, the point where a repeated thought or action becomes unconscious and effortless, like the way you don't consciously think through the steps of showering. His own funny, self-deprecating story about painfully learning to speak French with an exchange student illustrates the same principle. Awkward and forced at first, until one day, almost mysteriously, it clicks and becomes fluent. That's the goal with truth. Write it, think it, confess it, until one day it's simply who you are. Chapter 7, Lenses and Filters. Groeschel opens with a funny story about his wife picking up a new pair of glasses from the optometrist and immediately telling him he looked terrible, discolored off. The problem wasn't him. It was her new prescription. Once she took the glasses off, he looked completely normal again. This becomes his entry point into cognitive bias, the psychological term for the distorted lens each of us unconsciously looks through, shaped by our upbringing, our wounds, and our past experiences. Two people can receive identical feedback from a boss, sit through the same church service, or have the same relationship with an earthly father, and walk away with completely different interpretations. Not because the facts differed, but because the filter did. Groeschel is disarmingly honest about his own bias toward control, joking about his need to hold the TV remote and drive every car he's ever been in. But he pivots to something more serious. While you can't control your circumstances, you absolutely can control how you interpret them. That skill, called cognitive reframing, becomes the third major tool in the book, following the replacement and rewire principles. The example he uses is the Apostle Paul, imprisoned in Rome and chained to a rotating shift of guards, a circumstance completely outside his control. Rather than framing it as a disaster, Paul reframed it as a captive audience for the gospel. Same facts, completely different frame. Chapter 8, What God Didn't Do. This is intentionally the shortest chapter in the book, and Groeschel says it might be the most powerful. His argument: it's relatively easy to thank God for the good things that happen. It's much harder and much more transformative to thank God for the things that didn't happen. He illustrates this with a personal story. A shattered pitching hand in 8th grade ended his path toward the professional baseball career he'd been groomed for since birth. At the time, it felt devastating. But that injury indirectly led him to try tennis instead, which led to a scholarship at a college he never would have otherwise attended, where he encountered his faith in a life-altering way and met his future wife. None of that would have happened if his original prayer, to become a baseball player, had been answered. The chapter's challenge to the reader is simple. Look back at your own life and ask which unanswered prayers, in hindsight, were actually acts of mercy. Chapter 9, Collateral Goodness. Building directly on the last chapter, Groeschel introduces the idea of collateral goodness, the good things that ripple out of situations that looked purely negative at the time. He tells the story of his book Hope in the Dark selling out immediately after release, leaving him frustrated that readers who needed it couldn't get a copy, until he learned that one particular copy arrived at exactly the right moment for a grieving widower who needed it most. The principle here: you will always find whatever you're looking for. He contrasts vultures, who are wired to search for and find dead things, with hummingbirds, who are wired to search for and find nectar. Same sky, same day, completely different result because of what each was looking for. Groeschel also introduces the concept of pre-framing, deciding in advance how you'll interpret a situation before it even happens, rather than defaulting to your old, biased lens once you're already in it. Chapters 10 and 11, Problems, Panic, and the Perspective of Praise. Groeschel shares an incredibly rough season of his own life. A summer packed with back-to-back preaching commitments, home repairs, car troubles, a compromised credit card, and, most seriously, a newborn granddaughter facing a frightening medical scare. It became too much, and his body eventually shut down from the stress, prompting him to begin seeing a counselor. He connects this to the Old Testament prophet Elijah, who, right after one of the greatest spiritual victories of his life, collapsed into despair and asked God to let him die. Not because his circumstances were unlivable, but because he'd lost sight of God's presence in the middle of his problems. The turning point for Elijah came not through dramatic wind, earthquake, or fire, but through a quiet whisper. Groeschel's takeaway: when the presence of your problems starts to overshadow the presence of God, the antidote isn't necessarily a solved problem. It's simply remembering that God is still there. From here, Groeschel makes the case for prayer and praise as literal neurological tools, citing brain research showing that focused prayer and worship measurably calm the brain's fear response and can even reshape brain structure over time. He introduces a strikingly practical exercise called the God Box, a physical box where you write down your anxious thoughts on paper, hand them over in prayer, and physically place them inside, refusing to keep relitigating them in your head. He also tells a vivid, honest story about forcing himself to worship half-heartedly at first, in the middle of his own writer's block and anxiety, only to feel genuine breakthrough moments later. His conclusion: we often wait to praise God until after things improve, but real transformation tends to come when we praise before the circumstances change. Chapter 12 and Conclusion: Look through, not at. The final chapter opens with Groeschel's confession that he can never see the hidden 3D image in a magic eye picture. He only ever sees the surface pattern of dots. He uses this as his closing metaphor. Most of us stare directly at our problems, magnifying them until they're all we can see, instead of learning to look through them to the deeper reality underneath, including everything that's still going right in our lives. He recounts a moment with his own counselor, who gently pointed out that despite his real struggles, his health, marriage, family, and support system were actually thriving. He'd simply lost the ability to see it because he was staring so hard at what was wrong. The book closes with a final charge. The war for your mind never fully ends, so don't drop your guard. Keep both hands up, one in prayer, one in praise, and keep renewing your mind with truth, one declaration at a time. Because your life will always move in the direction of your strongest thoughts. The only real question left is, which thoughts are you going to feed? If this breakdown of winning the war in your mind resonated with you, the full book digs even deeper into each of these declarations and exercises. It's genuinely worth a read. Let me know in the comments which of these 4 principles hit you the hardest, and don't forget to subscribe for more book summaries every week.